Welcome. Welcome to a. I'm starting the show off backwards right away. Good evening. Welcome to another riveting edition of The Ghost and the Goat. I am your host, Buddy Thayer. Soon to be your co-host, Buddy Thayer. My co-host, the Goat, is due to come in off the fields, off the pasture. He's been out. He's been in the barn recovering for a few months now. He's due to make his return tonight at some point during the paranormal section of the show. Tonight is going to be an original. Hopefully, if you make it back tonight, though, it'd be great. And tonight will be a full-fledged original OG Ghost and the Goat. For the first hour, we have a lovely paranormal guy, which I'll get into in just a few short minutes. I have a few updates I would like to send your way. A few things I'm proud of. Things I've been doing. So if you're tuned in right now, it's probably with the Get Haunted Network, or a Van Down by the River podcast on YouTube or Facebook, or we're on Twitch right now, or on YouTube. So any of the various outlets that you're checking us out on, unless you're seeing me on my own Facebook page, then you can only be and you're saying, hey buddy, or you're getting questions for our guest tonight, or you got things you want to, crap you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers later on in the show, by all means, pipe it into the chat line. We'd be happy to talk to you via the chat line. Be happy to answer your questions. Just you can only do so, from what I imagine, from what I'm told, through Get Haunted and a Van Down with a Riv on Facebook, and I think Twitch comes through, and YouTube. So anyway, be sure to do that. So before we get into tonight's show, like I said, I have a few quick updates. If you tune into any of my other podcasts, I have another. It's a vodcast, if you will. It's once a month. I do it just once a month, because anything more than that would be just too much. It's called Three Dudes Brews. This is the logo. It's lovely, and it features myself and two other good friends of mine, two other enthusiasts of the craft beer world, which is wonderful here in Rhode Island. If you don't know, you should check it out. Craft beer is huge almost in every state in America right now. So anywhere you go, you can find it. So, and that's what we like to do. We go to eat different breweries from around Rhode Island, from around Connecticut. With Massachusetts, we got one booked for next year. We talk craft. We talk the colors, the different styles. As you may or may not know, there are various different styles of beer, from as light as almost clear to as dark as where you can't even see through it, everything in between. Beer culture, inspiration for the beer, for what goes into making a beer, what actually defines a beer. Some people would consider sours not to be on the very fray of the beer spectrum, but I think it's a huge spectrum, like almost anything else in this world. So we like to go into these different breweries and talk about. We don't only like to do that. We also we have a few announcements for the Three Dudes Brews vodcast, which I'm going to say really quick tonight. So last Saturday we had the immense pleasure of we went down to White Dog Distilling, which is in lovely scenic Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and we took place all three dudes and Ed's wife. We did the White Dog Distilling annual chili cook-off, which is going to be called the Chili Throwdown next year. We all participated. Only Ed and Costas of the dudes won. I brought my chili greatness. Ed's wife won the whole thing. It was great. It was a good time. We had a lot of good chili. We had a lot of good laughs. We talked a lot about a lot of good beer. There's a great brewery right next door called Crooked Current, the smallest brewery in Rhode Island. Really good. Check her out. It's also the only female-owned brewery in Rhode Island. I digress. Anyway, more good things Three Dudes are doing. Tonight we picked up our 3 boxes. I don't know if you can see that really well. It's the Three Dudes Brews Giving food drive. We're happy to report that we collected almost 300 pounds of donated food from White Dog Distilling, from Six Pack Brewery in Bristol, Rhode Island, and from Crooked Current there in not Crooked. No, she didn't take. Was it Crooked Current? Yeah, I think it was Crooked Current. Yeah, I'm sorry. They all participated, and everybody who donated a can of food or a food item got $1 off the beer at the brewery. So it was really nice. Ed and I are going to drop off the food donations to the St. Edward's food bank over on Branch Ave in Providence. So it's a really good. We don't just like to drink good beers. We like to give back. Other things that we like to do. So I've been anybody who's known me for the last 2 or 3 years knows I've been doing paranormal podcasts, whether it's through the Ghost and the Goat or my last venture with Michael. And when I was doing podcasts with Michael, I was lucky enough to be I had a an assistant brewer, we'll say. He reached out. He said, "Hey, you're a paranormal guy." I'm like, "Hey, I'm a paranormal guy." He's like, "Hey, you do a paranormal podcast." In the first 10 minutes of every show, we love it how you talk about great craft beers from around Rhode Island, and then you like sip them throughout the show. It's really it was my way of introducing great craft beer. So he wanted to do a beer with me, a beer with legit podcasts, and my relationship with Michael kind of we dissolved last September, and that kind of fell through. So when I started this podcast here, Three Dudes Brews and a Ghost and the Ghost and the Goat, Kyle was wonderful enough to reach out to me. He's like, "Hey, I see what you guys doing. I like it a lot." He's like, "I still want to make a beer with you." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, and I kind of got some news. He's like, Lion Cider. It was the beer that the brewery in East Greenwich that we were going to do the beer with. They were owned by former New England Patriot linesman Dan Copen and this lovely guy named Jeremy. They wanted to do a beer. They wanted to do a beer. They sold that. I'm sorry. They sold their brewery to Kyle Tost. He's a lovely gentleman. And Kyle said, "Hey, I still want to do a beer with you guys." And we talked about the new beer show, and he's like, "Hey, that sounds like a great thing you guys are doing." So he bought the well, that's me and the dudes there in and I think that's one of the Shaolin temples. You can find us almost anywhere nowadays. We're going to all sorts of breweries, but we're doing this special project. I've been kind of talking about it for the last few months or so. I haven't been able to say anything, but this is the big news. So we're doing we did a beer. I guess you could call it a collab. I wouldn't really call it. We didn't really collab anything besides like what we wanted to in a beer and what they were thinking about for beer. And we decided to do a porter. This is Costas. This is one of my dudes. He's one of the Greekiest guys I know. He went there and he built a puzzle for them, which they're going to put it up on the wall. It's all the Rhode Island breweries. These are some of the pictures from the day. We got to go down and make beer with this brewery. We ended up making a porter. It's going to be one of 12 of their beers. Their soft opening is this Saturday, and they're open for business on Black Friday. Hold on, let me run that banner so y'all know you don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm sorry, I'm a little slow right now. Here we go. This is where it's at. This is where you can find Three Dudes and a Brew. It's a porter. It's I'll get back what kind of porter is as I go through these pictures here. That's the new bar. That's where we poured all the ingredients in and we cooked it in there. And that's Kyle. He's also a Dolphins fan like myself, which is another wonderful paranormal touch. There's a fermenter. That's where it sits for a couple 2-3 weeks while it ferments, and the yeast and eats all the alcohol. That's the new kegs that they have when we were there. So our porter is like a Snickers bar. The whole poop load of chocolate and some caramel and some nuts and some more chocolate and some more baker's chocolate. And this Kyle, look at that, Dan Marino. How awesome is that, huh? And that's the mural. This is the first time this mural, I probably shouldn't be showing this. This is the first time that mural's been shown. They haven't opened yet. And there's the chocolate, all the bakery chocolate that we broke up and we put in there. We put a ton of caramel in. We put cocoa, lots of chocolate. So this is the creation. It's called Three Dudes and a Brews. It's a Snickers porter. I don't know the APV on it yet. I'm hoping it's a little bit on the higher side because I'm a kind of a higher side kind of guy. You can find it only on draft at Crafted Hope Brewing Company. They're in 1485 South County Trail, East Greenwich, Rhode Island. www.craftedbrewing.com. This is their label. We want to congratulate Kyle Tost and the whole Crafted Hope Brewing family. A big cheers and congratulations. And we are so proud. So proud. This is a proud moment in my life that I got to brew a beer with a major new brewer with huge, tremendous ties to the Rhode Island National Guard. If you watched last week's show, we had a good friend of mine from the Rhode Island National Guard come on and do an amazing tour of an incredible museum. So just wonderful things to stay tuned to to a van down by the Riv, and all the great things that we do. Speaking of all the great things that we do, we're gonna switch back to this show here, van down by the Riv. So tonight's guest, hold on a second. I had this thing up here, and then it just kind of like fell off. All right, yep, there it is. Okay, all right. Tonight's guest, he's we're happy to welcome a fellow I'm a paranormal investigator, by the way, so I'm happy to welcome another fellow paranormal investigator and podcaster. He has been interested in the paranormal field for most of his adult life. He has been actively researching the paranormal phenomena since the age of 13. What began as reading books on different theories of how and why the paranormal spirits were remain in their bodies after they pass. It became a quest for more knowledge, became him becoming a paranormal investigator, which is kind of like how some of us started out. A lot of us started out, actually. He has been investigating now for over 20 years. He had a bevy of paranormal experiences as a child growing up. Being from a Christian background, he was afraid to confront his family with what he was experiencing. Now he has made it his goal to help others in need. That's awesome. And he also is the co-host of a podcast. I'm sorry, going ghosting. The Cryptic Paranormal Show. Welcome to the show. He comes with like a lot of like good references to like people saying, "Yeah, this guy's awesome." The Gooz, Ray Goosby. Welcome to the show, Ray.
What's up, man? Good, man. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, Ray. So you, I see like a Bigfoot sign in the background.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I know you're paranormal. I know there's got to be something a little bit off because you're a Steelers fan, but what do you? Some people are like 14 and they do everything. I'm just a ghost guy. What do you investigate? What's your thing?
I mean, I'm mostly the ghost hunting or whatever ghost hunting. Going to creepy places and trying to communicate with dead people.
Okay. Yeah.
But I've been doing it for so long. I kind of expanded everything, and now I'm like into all of it. I'm into cryptozoology.
Okay.
My sign right next to it right here is Area 51 sign, like warning Area 51. So I'm into UFOlogy now, which
sure.
is it's a great time to be into that right now with all the congressional hearings and everything about the declassification of evidence. So
it's like the government slowly is releasing little bits of evidence, little bits of stuff.
Yeah.
For the last several years. How long do you think it will be until they finally say, "Hey, look, this has been a thing for a while. It's a thing." They're not gonna mess with us. But I think that's ever gonna happen.
I mean, my personal feeling is they've been here before we were. I think there's always these theories that they're actually us in the future, but I don't know. I mean, I think the one good thing about the new politicians coming into power here shortly, I think that will be there's going to be a good chance that they may be releasing some of that finally and making it available for the public. I've seen things. I'm friends with a lot of people that have seen things. Definitely a believer. Probably more so in that than in some other things that I investigate and research because it's just more tangible. But it's an exciting time. But yeah, I think it'll be soon. I think it'll be within the next 4 years, at least next 4 to 5 years.
It's a very exciting time, and it's credible. I can say it's credible because a really good friend of mine, the guy who he's the president, and he's the curator at the museum that we had on last week. He's a good friend of mine, Patrick Donovan. He recently did some grant work with he writes grants for the Armory and stuff. He recently did some grant work for this UFO project for the last like 3 years. It was headed by I'm not sure the guy's name, but it was headed by a Navy pilot, an F-16 pilot who had various experiences with seeing UFOs and UAPs or whatever you want to call them nowadays.
Right.
And they were writing a research study. They were doing a research on the safety of commercial jets with all the UFO and UAP activity. and Patrick was just out in Long Island a few weeks ago. They were
Yeah.
UFO hunting. Like, so it's like
Yeah.
these are scholarly people, doctors,
Yeah.
PhDs, all that stuff that are actively researching
Right.
UFO activity. So
Yeah, well, the thing that's like also like you were talking about, this guy's ex Navy pilot or ex Air Force. I mean, these are the guys that are coming out and risking their names and their credibility, showing. I mean, whistleblowing on this stuff. And when these guys are up there in F-16s and they're getting outmaneuvered and they're seeing shit on their cameras and things that they can't explain, and they're up there every day for hours and hours all over the world, and they're seeing these things, you've got to take that seriously.
And it's not something that's isolated in the United States alone. It's
it's everywhere.
Other countries, Air Forces have experienced the same thing.
Yeah, in the last congressional hearing, they were showing this footage, and I wish I could play it for you, but I'm not on my computer. It's called the jellyfish UFO. It's basically a UAP. It looks like a suit. It looks like a jellyfish, but you could see like arms and legs coming out of it. The only reason they were able to pick it up was somebody who was filming this black ops site over in Afghanistan. It was like a CIA headquarters within a base. So that was kind of iffy to be filming there in the first place. But it's just this thing that's floating, and the only thing that's catching it is the thermal camera. It can't, like, normal camera was not catching it. It was completely undetected by radar. But here's this thing, and you could see the thermal like scan, like it's changing colors as it's going across the screen. And there's part of the footage at the end that they released the footage, and then, you know, obviously the government got a hold of it. They took the pertinent parts of it away before it was allowed in the public. But it's going back to the whole congressional hearing of the UFOs coming from the ocean. And so that's the theory. So I guess the full film of this thing is actually going into the ocean and then coming back out and disappearing, just like that, gone.
Far out, man.
So yeah, it's cool.
There's a lot of video stuff. I mean, as an investigator of ghost stuff, I wish I had like a tenth of
I know,
and
I think that's part of the reason I'm starting to get into this other stuff a little bit more, because it's real. It's more real. Definitely more tangible. But going back to the ghost hunting, I mean, that's something that I've been dealing with all my life. So it's not something that I'm just going to set aside. I mean, that's still my wheelhouse, my bread and butter.
Absolutely. Dude, absolutely, 100%, absolutely. Every time I go out there, maybe not every time, because not every time something happens. But you go out there and every time you experience something, it's never like, oh my God, this was boring. Oh my God, this wasn't exciting. It's like, oh my God, this is like incredible.
Right.
Or in other cases, I've like it. Sometimes it takes like, sometimes it's not like, bam, it's not like on TV, like bam, it happens right there. It happens in the moment.
Right.
And like sometimes it takes like 2-3 years.
Oh yeah.
Of, like, just going back and forth to a place. Yeah. So like just research. And
there's and it's kind of pissing me off. There's a lot of people out there that are like, they go to a place one time and they throw all their complaints and everything out there on Facebook land and their socials, and totally down the place and the owners, and it's just bullshit. And you're obviously not working the places, you know. And I say that about owners that I know. I mean, there's owners out there that are definitely taking people's money and are acting inappropriately. We've all seen it. Anybody who's in the paranormal field is seeing all the
100%.
shit.
I operate from Rhode Island, right? So I know exactly what you're referring to. Yep.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I won't mention her at all, but yes, she is definitely the white elephant in the paranormal room.
There's a lot of that going around, and it's like, for the new people that are getting interested, it's not a good time for them to, like, I mean, they don't understand that if you come home with one little 5-second thing that makes you scratch your head, that is an excellent night. That is, if you're scratching your head, or maybe one little 5-second recording of somebody saying hi to you. I mean, or hearing a bang that you couldn't like figure out. It's just, you know, it's exciting, and
experience of being touched or any of it, and the above. But it's never usually. I've had moments where it's been like, looking back and I was like, wow, that's a lot of stuff happened that night. It was like collectively looking back, it's like, okay, but in the moment, it's not always so exciting. More than likely, it's like 4 adults sitting in a room talking to each other, and after a couple hours, everybody starts kind of goofing around, and then that's sometimes when you get like who's that dude laughing there? Who's that? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know how many times we've gone back through EVPs and like some of the newer people in our group will start fast forwarding. Oh, we can't hear anything. I'm like, just stop it.
Yeah.
Just listen to it completely. So they'll go through it. And I'm like, if you hear anything out of the source, just play it for everybody. And, you know, it's just, you know, I tell everybody to tag their audio. Like, you know, if you cough, say you coughed, you know, but if you hear somebody giggling behind you, that's like not your age and not your sex or whatever, it's pretty cool. And you're right. It always happens when you least expect it and you're not paying attention.
Yep. Everybody in the room identifies themselves, identifies their voice. You know, you kind of like if you hear a car, hey, I just heard a car driving by, or someone's like, oh, I heard that. What's that noise? I was like, oh, I heard that. It was in the street. You know, just to be absolutely 100%. I always tell people, don't whisper. Please don't whisper. No matter how quiet you think you're being, you're not being quiet. I can hear everything you're saying.
Right.
And a whisper comes off it's tough. But yeah, some of the best evidence I got, most people would just like play over because it's very faint. It's very like nothingness. And then when you like open it up a little bit and clean it up sometimes, not too much because then you can destroy it. But it's amazing what comes through.
Yeah, I've messed around all kinds of different ways of listening to EVPs too. And there's sometimes where somebody will like listen to this and I can't hear shit.
Right.
And there's a one in particular my group sent to me like, you got to hear this, man. And I could not hear it. I had my earphones on. I'm like, I took them off. I'm like right there.
Yep.
So like I had to go run like to the other side of the room to do something. And I just let it play like over and over again. I walked to the other side of the room. On the other side of the room, I could hear it clear as day. I'm like, whoa, what? Holy crap. I now hear it. Then I go back up and get real close and I'm like, I can't hear it because there's all the static and shit, but you're away and all that's kind of cleared out just by the traveling of sound and the time it takes to get to your ear. It's pretty cool. I love it.
I usually use either Vic Firth, the drummer recommended it to me. I plug them into my recorder and even like when I'm listening to EVPs or listen to audio stuff, it's just it definitely helps to clarify things. It blocks everything else out, you know.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I tell everybody just don't be afraid to amplify stuff and turn it up. And
absolutely.
You know, get it better.
I'm not a big fan of people who edit shit and like move stuff around on the sound waves.
Don't do that. No.
Put it in your ear closer and make it a little bit louder. Like you could change the volume a little bit, but
there's too many ways to not to say that anybody would, but I could say people would make up something and fraudulate it. It probably happens every day. So is that so you're a group, you're a part of a group. Do you guys investigate people's houses? Do you go into people's houses, or are you more the go out to the more haunted locations?
When we first started, we did both, and we tried to get into the residential. I personally still try to help with residential cases, but it's kind of more on an outside of the group thing. I have a couple other people, a psychic medium friend that's a really close friend of mine, that if we hear something, we're trying to like build it up for 2025 and kind of focus on that a little bit more. My group is basically, we're all serious about it. We love what we do, but we're about just like, meeting every month or every couple of months and going like throwing our money and going to some, awesome place. The historical buildings that we get into. I live in Ohio. So like Northeast Ohio, our friend Adam Kimmel, who actually runs RU Media Network, where our show is on, he owns Madison Seminary, which is awesome. Cause I was going to Madison Seminary investigating with our group, like almost 10 years before he bought the place. But, we go there probably 3 or 4 times a year. And then we volunteer there for like flashlight tours and stuff. Cool. But like, it's just one of those places like you were talking about before, having quiet nights. You'll have quiet nights, but you can go the very next night and it'll be crazy. So that's what we do. But I am trying to focus next year more on getting back into residentials, because you have to have the right mindset for it. And like my group, we all have families, we all have jobs.
Of course,
right. The residential cases take a lot more kind of focus and time away from that, and it's not something that they're prepared to be involved with. And you have to be really careful. You have to be safe with some of these people trying to get you to come to their house.
Oh my god! I not a lot, but I've been to some people's houses where they definitely weren't experiencing anything paranormal, where it was
Oh yeah.
definitely either them planning it or to
Yeah.
bolster themselves, or them it exists only in their mind. And
Right.
fortunately, I do work, and I have made a career in mental health for the last
Oh
25 years.
cool.
So I've seen a
Yeah.
thing or two, and for a
Yeah.
while, up until last year, my aunt did retire and moved to South Carolina, but she was a mental health clinician. She
Oh okay.
investigated with us, so it was good perspective. We have quite the questionnaire to
Right.
try to
Oh yeah,
weed
for
weed
sure.
any of that stuff out. It's definitely tough.
It is. Yeah,
I've
we
gone
go
to.
through. I like to at least have like I have the phone interview, at least 2 phone interviews before I even go to a location,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's in depth. I have like a long, like 3 or 4 page, like application or whatever interview sheet that I go through. But yeah,
Yep. Yep.
I get you.
Number of years ago, I was doing like a consulting thing with James and Nino. Do you know the name? He's a
Oh
DJ.
yeah, I've had. I'm good
Yeah.
friends with him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
James is also have the pleasure of being from Rhode Island. He's a friend of mine.
yeah,
He investigated with us a few times. So knowing that I was in mental health, he's like, "Hey, you want to come out with me and like just like give me what do you think?"
yeah,
I'm like, "All right, cool." So we did it a few times up in southeastern Mass and Rhode Island. Then he had another case in Cranston, Rhode Island. So one of my investigators, like he's a younger guy, he's like, "Hey, I want to come and check this out." I'm like, "Yeah, come
yeah.
on." And we go in this woman's house, dude, and she's all crying and upset and all this awful stuff that's happening. She's like, the real
Yeah,
stuff happens downstairs. So, oh, okay. So we go downstairs with her,
yeah.
and this woman, it was like someone flipped the switch in her head, and
Oh, jeez.
and it's like, oh god, and she's like, honestly, she started going at James. I thought I had to go hands on with this woman.
Oh
And
my
physically
god.
restrain her because I thought she was gonna go. She was like going right for James's neck, like, "Oh God, what are we doing? I'm at work again."
It's
And
scary, man.
yeah, but you never know. You never know what people are
Right.
gonna do to try and like get themselves on TV because they think they're gonna make millions of dollars as
Oh,
like my house is haunted by a
yeah,
demon again.
we had one case that was brought to us by one of our teammates. Her friend owned a rental house down in like central Ohio. It's like a 2 hour drive. And so that's that's we're getting close to the limit of like being able to like without having a big plan to do a ghost or investigation.
Right.
So, it was, gas money, it's time. So we went down there because on her word, we're cool.
Yeah.
We get there. This woman who owns the residence, she shows up. Her and her girlfriends have been drinking. They basically just set up a live version of Ghost Adventures in her house. So she really did believe that there was something going on there,
Yep.
but there was nothing that we could come up with. And you know, at the end of the day, we're just like, we don't. The couple of things that you said you had questions on, we were able to debunk pretty easily. So it was just like it was a real downer because it's like residential case. We're gonna help somebody that we
Yeah.
know, their close friend, and you get down there and it's just basically they wanted us to perform a live adventure of some kind of ghost hunting show for them. It was just
Yeah, yeah. I had a client that invited us in, and we did that. She had a bunch of food, which was really nice.
yeah,
But there were like 10 people there. I'm like, you can
yeah,
hear them downstairs. I'm like, how is
right,
this? How are we investigating anything, dude? So,
right,
we didn't end up getting nothing from it, obviously, because
right,
it was just she wanted to have a ghost party, and
right.
everybody wants to have fun. I get it, but
The other side of that too is if you do get into something where there is something going on there, you have to be prepared to deal with it. I mean, you
yeah,
have to
right,
have if it's something that you don't understand, you have to have connections because you can't just leave these people hanging. Too many teams do that.
yeah,
They just show
yeah.
them the evidence and they're like, okay, see you later. We
See
we
ya, have
figured it.
fun.
Yeah.
Bye. Good luck. Hey, good luck.
People
Yeah,
still
I have
doing
a
it. So.
it's or people will go in and say it's absolutely not what it is and say, "Oh my god, I'm making myself ill," and
Yeah.
this like to make you think that there are demons here, and
Right.
they exploit people, and they're absolutely terrible. And they
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's not just the parent. It's any field you go in, you're gonna find fraudulent
Oh
situations.
yeah.
People trying to
Yeah.
rip up
There's
people off.
there's nasties and no matter what you do.
Mhm. It's terrible. So, you're Ohio. So, I've
Yeah.
been through Ohio. I've been to the Football Hall of Fame. It's a lovely, lovely building.
Yeah.
Cleveland's a lovely city. And
Yeah.
if you're out in the Ohio region, what is some of the best, your top three in the area that you could drive through in a day that are haunted? Like, whoa.
Definitely would check out Madison Seminary, and you can contact them. There's always somebody that would be willing to like meet you there and just have do like a historical walkthrough with you.
Mhm.
Um, definitely Madison Seminary. Close by to that, I mean, if it was more accessible, I would say the House of Wolves, but that's like in the really rough part of Cleveland, like downtown
Yeah.
Cleveland. It's like east side.
Ooh.
You gotta be, you almost kind of want to be in a carrying situation there. um,
Maybe skip
but
that.
it's an amazing building. It's so filled with history and it is
Mhm.
extremely active. So I
Mhm.
mean, if all those other things were a little bit more easy for people to deal with, I would definitely say that. But I mean, Adams Properties, there's one down in Fairfield, his Fairfield Infirmary. It's in
Mhm.
Southern Ohio. I mean,
Yep.
you could do it in a day if you just wanted to drive through. And
Yeah.
it's a nice area. That's like near Mohican, or not Mohican, but oh shoot.
Mm.
It's a big national park area. So there's like a lot of camping and lodges and stuff down there. So like
Yep.
it's a great thing. Like the first time I went there, I just walked around the outside because we had a cabin with the family and we were just spending a weekend down there. And
Sure.
I knew Adam just had purchased it. So yeah, definitely the Fairfield Infirmary for
Mm.
sure.
Nice. I had a not really a client. I did research for her as much as I could from here to remotely in Ohio. She was in a house in Southern Ohio. I hooked her up with a group down there, but
Oh, okay.
a lot of like the she was living on like I want to say it was like an old military base, but it dated back. The town had history of had a Confederate war prison. You know,
Oh wow.
it was
Okay.
Union, but I mean, it was all obviously the
Gotcha.
Confederates with it, but
Okay.
a lot of Civil War history in Ohio. You
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and there's more and more. The more I like deep dive into some of the locations, I find out a lot of like. I mean, even like Mansfield Prison was built
wait, where's
during
that?
like, yeah. Uh, Mansfield Prison, that's like where they down in Mansfield, Ohio, where they shot
Mhm.
like movies like Shawshank Redemption
Oh
and
yeah, good film. Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of people if they're just getting into ghost hunting in Ohio, that's like one of the first places they'll go just
Hmm.
because it's so well known like worldwide. You know, all the shows have been there,
Of
movies
course.
there's a bunch of movies have been shot there. So um but it's a cool place. I mean, that was my first experience with a ghost, like an actual ghost hunt. So
Hmm.
we paid the big bucks to go on the big public ghost hunt, and that place is so massive and huge, and you can get into so many areas of it. Even with all those other people, barely you barely run into anybody else. So it's really cool. It's a great place. I mean, it's totally worth a public ghost hunt too. But I've
I
been
bet.
there a couple times. I mean, if I could add a fourth place or maybe swap that with the House of Wolves, I'd definitely throw that in there.
Hmm. Yeah, haunted prisons got to hold a lot of energy, a lot of.
Oh yeah,
I worked in
yeah,
I worked in a forensic hospital in Massachusetts for just over 5 years, and it was prison. There's not a hospital about it. It was a prison for all intents and
yeah,
purposes. But guys getting evaluated to see if they were competent to stand trial, stuff like that. Guys who had civil commitments, stuff like that. Just like
right,
really mentally ill, right? And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
there was some definitely bad vibes going through there. There were people who died there. There was just like sometimes you walk onto a unit and it'd be like you get that
yeah.
feeling that oh my god
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a couple
what's
places
lingering,
like
you
that.
know.
I think
Yeah.
the worst place for me for that has been Penhurst out in
Oh yeah.
Philadelphia, Spring City. That's kind of when I really realized that I kind of had some pretty deep seated abilities. I mean, I would just start crying in areas. Like I would just feel the
Hmm.
emotion. It wasn't even like fear. It was just like sadness and
Yeah,
depression. And
and
you could,
it's quick and it's overcome and
yeah,
it hits you and you can't explain why you're. I've had this
right,
experience once in my life and you
yeah,
can't explain why you're crying, why you're so upset.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just it's
yeah. That kind of
it
opened up the whole bag of shit for me because I mean, I love going to those places, but it's a little harder for me to like want to like go to like prisons and hospitals and stuff now. I'd rather go to the smaller historical homes like that had families and stuff, like nothing like seriously wrong. It's just, you know, because
right, nothing
I
awful
I'm
history.
still learning a lot about like protection and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
um, but yeah, it's all been a journey.
Yeah, of course it is. So yeah, we talk about like empathic abilities. Like, I I wouldn't even say it's a bit. I would be willing to venture that almost all of us have something.
Yeah.
Whether you develop it or not. I used not intentionally, but I did some Reiki over the years, and I did some Eastern European, like Eastern Asian, like Quigun,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I noticed that opened myself up and
Yeah.
made my experiences a whole lot more clear. Do you find the same
Right.
thing? Do you think it's all like energy? What are
I
your thoughts on
definitely feel like I pick up on energy. There's been a couple. See, I haven't really done Reiki or anything like that. Or Reiki, however you pronounce it. I've been
that?
doing this for years, and I still don't know how to pronounce that word right. Um,
Reiki,
but
Reiki.
I do a lot of like just basic meditation and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
That's good.
I've learned. I'm not Christian, but I'm an acid, a practicing acid true pagan. So I deal with a lot of energy, and I'm learning a lot about that kind of thing, and dealing with spirits as energy instead of like demons and stuff like that.
Right.
Learning to read a room, and I work closely with like my friend Tina Frick. Love her to death. She's helped me a lot, develops things, and I learn from her all the time. And there's been a couple times where I picked up on things, and it turns out I was right about it. I didn't know any of the history of a place, and
Hmm.
like, oh, there's this guy here, and he's like the administrator to the hospital, and he's like barking in my ear, like we shouldn't be here because I was getting this pain in my ear,
Hmm.
and I was like, just like a ringing, and I'm like, I felt this like energy like in my face,
Yep.
not being violent, but like being like kind of like just get the hell out of here. And this wasn't Tina at this time, but this was another psychic that I worked with, and she's like, keep going. She's just like, open your mind, just keep going.
Hmm.
Like, and I just kept, I'm like, I was getting down to the smell I was getting off of him. I'm like, he smells like black licorice.
Wow.
Like he like keeps like good and plenty. He just throws it in his mouth, or he's got some kind of gum. She's like, yep. She's like, I see him throwing like chunks of like black licorice candy or something in his mouth and chewing on it like it's gum or something. I'm like, that's
Jesus.
crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely feel. I mean, I've walked into rooms where I instantly you kind of get that gut wrenching feeling, like you just drops and you kind of get dizzy or nauseous or whatever.
Hmm.
And I've had somebody come in behind me with, different EMF detectors, and they'd go off, just
Hmm.
kind of validate what I was feeling. So yeah, for sure. And it's the longer I'm kind of the point now where I don't even really take a whole lot of tech with me
Hmm.
on investigations. I'm really just,
Yeah. Bring yourself, right?
yeah,
Rely
I'm
on yourself.
about, I know this isn't very scientifically appropriate, but I'm about the subjective experience. I'm like, I like to feel and see things for myself. And I'm at that point now where I just getting out of it. What I want out of it is I want to communicate. I want to experience these things. I want to make the journey. If
Right.
people believe me or not, I don't give a shit. I'm not,
Right.
it's,
We're not
it's
here
not
for
my
that,
journey
right?
anymore to prove, unless I'm trying to help somebody,
Right. Right.
I could switch that off and on really easy. But
Right. The experience is sometimes where it's at, and you can't always. Unfortunately, you can't always record or capture
yeah,
that moment as you're experiencing it. So
right.
it's tough to But like you talk about the scientific the scientificness of these some of these tools. I mean, some of these tools that they bring in the field. I mean, like all right, a K2 is like I get it, electricians use it and mechanics use
Right.
it sometimes, but I mean, how scientific is a lot of these tools that are just like bells and whistles and just like lights flashing or just
Yeah.
like a music box? I mean, how
Yeah.
we could just like break them down. A lot of them, I feel like I've used cat balls because they're
Hmm.
you can't manipulate them with a cell
Right.
phone. You can't manipulate
Yeah.
them with radio waves.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit more with I so when I first started in this, I had a really cheap spirit box that didn't really scan. It just played radio waves, but it didn't like really. It was shortwave, so it was just like
Yeah.
for the most part. We
Right.
would hear stuff, and then I wanted to up it, so I went to the spirit boxes. But then I said like I met people like Ron Yacovetti and Tony Rathman. They're Staticom. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
Staticom. It's I've seen it done at Gettysburg with my own eyes. I've interviewed these guys like 3 or 4 times.
Mhm.
There's definitely something to it. I'd like to get back to more of that, to
Yeah.
things that can't be controlled, manipulated by people or
Right.
by by electronics or whatnot, and just
Right.
go for the more
Uh,
basic, like yourself, like you said, just
yeah.
trust yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
like, I even carry just a regular old compass with me. I mean,
oh, cool.
that's I mean, my cell phone isn't going to turn that off or make that go like that, but a switch in the magnetic field is going to make it go crazy.
True.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I have a spirit box that I use pretty regularly. It was built by a friend of mine.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it's
do
a
use them. Don't
scanner.
get me wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I enjoy it. I have a hard time sometimes hearing what other people are hearing, you know, coming through it. And because I'm always looking for like the voice behind the voice, because I know it's scanning through radio.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very observant and like you have to have your listening ears on.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worked for me. But even
Yeah.
with
Oh,
that, like
yeah.
by
Absolutely.
like halfway through the night, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to carry anything anymore. I
Right.
just want to go sit in a room and see what happens.
Or hear that.
And
Hear that friggin' noise from a spirit box. Sometimes it's like you have it attached to a speaker, and it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, right. Yeah,
unbelievable. Like, oh my
yeah,
god, I want to sit and listen to this shit all night.
right.
Uh, I mean, I'm still skeptical on the spirit box while I've had amazing
Yeah.
results with it. Holy shit.
But we have
Um,
that's what we have to do that though, right? I mean,
mhm,
we have to be skeptical of everything. We have
of
to have
course,
a
'cause
base knowledge of the things that we're using, which a lot of us don't, and even I don't really. I mean, but you know, and I'm going to throw out a name here. My friend Lauren Hellickson. People know her. She's her equipment's getting out there. Crystal Pods, the Nova. She's starting to do like a Sunday podcast. You can catch her at Lauren Hans. She comes out with some great stuff, and the Crystal Pod itself is based off the REM pod. It does kind of the same thing, but she has it so that it's very hard for it to be set off. She
mhm,
makes it so that it's difficult for a spirit or whatever is interacting to set it off. So like your phone, I've had my phone right on it and
mhm,
we're pressing it and it doesn't go off.
yep,
You know, and 9 times out of 10 so far when I've used it, there's no activity off of it. But we were doing a ghost hunt with somebody. We're doing a public ghost hunt fundraiser for a local historical society back at the beginning of November, and it started going off, and it was going off in direct response to questions.
yep,
You know, and we were even telling it. We just said it there. We didn't even say like we have this thing over here. It'll flash, and you know if you're
mhm,
here. So it just started going off. I'm like, is there somebody standing over there in the corner? I didn't say anything about the tech. I'm like, is there anybody in the corner? And it would just go off, like
yeah,
because you need your energy when you're called out. Your energy just automatically spikes. You know what I mean? Like naturally, your energy spikes when somebody calls you or acknowledges your existence.
right, of
So
course,
I mean, something like that powerful would definitely set it off. And then it was quiet the rest of the night. And it wasn't like I did my work trying to make sure it wasn't anybody's phone or anybody driving by because
right,
truck radios can set that stuff off just as easy. But yeah, just there's stuff out there. There are people out there that are really trying to make things, and she reverse engineers everything so she knows how things work. And if she doesn't, she tries to find out. And that's what
yeah.
I love. I mean, I would if I had money,
What's
I'd buy everything that she puts out.
what's this? I because I'm in the market. I don't want to buy a REM pod because they're
Yeah,
close to $200, and
yeah,
do I really need the lights and the whistles? But
yeah,
I have had, like you said, I have had cool experiences with them. So,
yeah.
what? How do I? What is it? Crystal? What is? How do?
It's
I'm
called a
sorry.
crystal pod. I don't think I have mine around here, but her name's Lauren Hellickson. And
Okay.
if you just type it, like look up Lauren Hans,
Okay.
Lauren Hans. That's
Hans.
the name of her company. And she's been going to conventions. She's actually got an event coming up, I think this weekend down at Old Licking County Jail.
Yep.
It's actually kind of cool. She's doing this thing where she's like teaching people how to use equipment or how they work, how to be skeptical of equipment.
That's good.
And but to balance it out, she's working with a medium.
Hmm.
So like people are getting both like information from both and learning, you know, depending on their journey or I try to mesh the two. So
Yeah, absolutely. Some investigations are large enough where I bring the medium with us,
yeah.
because sometimes they whisper, sometimes they're talking constantly, which is fine
Yeah,
because
I
they got
know
a lot of
they
stuff going through
whisper.
their
They
head.
don't really realize that they're doing it because they're in their medium
Yep.
ing her.
Yeah, exactly. They're in the zone.
Yeah.
Other times I've gone in independently with just them. Our last investigation, it was myself and my cameraman, and I took two mediums.
Oh,
One of which
cool.
I had on the show a few weeks ago. She's unbelievable. Some of the things these ladies know, dude. Now I took him in the Varnum Armory Museum, which is like it's close to my heart, near and dear to my heart. And I
Yeah.
also have the key there. So we went in, and the curator Patrick was there with us. We did a walkthrough. They had never been in the building before. I didn't even know where we were going. I had them meet me independently about 2 miles from the place in the parking lot. I'm like, all right, follow me. We went in there, and we were in a room in a tower, and a tower where I had experienced EVPs from a young child named Jonathan. Like high pitched voices, like 4 or 5 EVPs, like from another medium who said it was a child. So they started
Yeah.
talking about him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he was connected to this building because they used to be in here and they used to scare people." And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, I don't know anything about this."
Yeah.
And they going on and on and on about this kid from town, and on and on and on about this
Uh,
place being a haunted house. I'm like, okay, all right. And from downstairs, it was like in like a stairwell. From down
mhm.
at the bottom, the curator said, actually, in the 1950s and 60s, the month of October, they closed it down and they decorated it and they had it as a haunted house attraction. Like,
Oh
holy shit!
wow.
I never knew
Yeah.
that. And this lady's telling me this like
Yeah.
minuscule fact
Right.
that you could almost never find unless you were like
Right.
just like crazy shit. I've had medium. My wife passed away 5.5 years ago. Suddenly, and I've had mediums come up and tell me like intimate details about like
Yeah.
things she's said to me. Like, all right, I knew this, and she knew this, and she's now dead. So how do you know
Mhm.
this? Because I've never
Yeah.
told anybody this stuff, like word for word. Like, how do you know
Yeah.
this stuff? So there's
Yeah.
definitely some kind of connection, whether it be in my subconscious to the universe or
Yeah.
spiritual or anything else. Like this past weekend, in the beginning of the show, I don't know if you heard, I talked about a chili cook off that
Yeah.
I participated in with the other two guys on my other podcast. So
Right.
the recipe that I used was my wife Heather was an incredible cook. When she passed, she had I don't have the cookbook in here. It was we took all of her handwritten recipes, she made stuff from scratch, put it all together, and I used her chili recipe. And I was thinking about it all weekend as I was buying it. I was talking to her as I was doing it. And one of my friends that I do this podcast with, Costas, his wife Erin was my wife Heather's best friend in high school growing up. They were like
Yeah.
sisters, and she's gotten like she'll randomly get like on her phone. She'll turn the phone on, and there'll be a picture of Heather on the phone.
Wow.
It's happened like 5 or 6 times, but it
Yeah.
happens at significant times. It
Right.
happened like when I'm talking about her, or like when Aaron's having a bad day and is asking for help, or I'm asking for something, bam, it'll just appear. So at
Crazy.
12:30 in the afternoon on Saturday, I was getting ready to go. I was heading out. I'm like, all right, Heather, hopefully this all goes well and we win or whatever. We just have a good time. And
Yeah.
I get a text message from Aaron, and it's a picture of she's like, I just got this, and I'll see if I can bring it up really quick, so you have some idea what I'm talking about. It's a picture of Heather, and she's like, it just appeared on my phone. She's like, I
It's
wasn't
crazy.
talking to her. I don't know what's going on. I don't,
Yeah.
let's see if I can find it. But it's crazy how they utilize some of this technology and just like come through. It's
I feel like my mom has done the same thing. She passed in 2018. Actually, we're coming up on the date she passed away. But she passed away in 2018, and every once in a while when I like go to visit her, as I go to the cemetery and I visit her
Mhm.
grave. Um and for some reason every Christmas when I go, I'll be listening to Christmas music. The minute I go to pull in, um their song about Saint Nick, Beach Boys. They're singing about crazy Saint Nick.
Right.
That song starts playing the minute I start pulling up to her grave. Like every year since she's passed. So it's
So
like, and she was the biggest Beach Boys fan I ever knew.
yep.
She's actually
So
probably one of the only Beach Boys fans I ever knew. But
yep.
it's just like
My parents both are, but yeah, yeah, it was so a
it's
generation
crazy
ago.
stuff,
It
man.
was
Yeah.
awful music, but yeah. So this is Erin's phone. This is when she turns it on. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little right. So
Oh, there you go.
that's a picture of my wife right in the middle. Poor it says
Okay.
portrait, and then
Yeah.
she goes to it, and then it's always this video, and it plays. Well, it will play a video of Heather. It'll play
Yeah.
all these different like pictures of Heather and Erin from
Yeah.
like vacations or stuff. It always happens at a coincidental time, and
Yeah.
I like I don't think it's a coincidence at this point. I've had so many mediums experiences. I've had people come up to me on the street, just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
man,
amazing though. It's amazing. Like I tell everybody, as a grieving husband, there is no better way to deal with the experience of losing a spouse than have them come through and holy shit, give me message after message. So
yeah, people always question me too. Like after my mom passed, like, "Are you going to continue ghost hunting? Like, are you like weirded out about it?" Like, no, I understand it more now. I mean, I'm hoping that my understanding and my openness of my mind and my spirit, that she'll be able to reach out easier to me and still, and I know she, like, just with you, like my medium friends will just text me like, "Hey, your mom was looking on you today, and she's up there with all your aunts and uncles and partying and they started talking about her drinking Pepsi when everybody else was drinking beer." And that's exactly what would happen. Like when we would go back to Pittsburgh and party with family, we'd all be all drinking beer and she'd be out there dancing with her Pepsi, you know. It's cool stuff like that, man. I mean, I have dreams about her where we just talk and have normal conversations, and it's crazy. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's they say they come in dreams. I'm not much of a dreamer. I had one dream, and it was with her, and her voice was as clear as day, and she was talking about me in the present, about what I was doing in the present. It's just absolutely, you gotta. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't have to believe. I guess you can say it's all maybe in your mind, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's much more the mind's way of allowing you maybe to have some peace. I don't know. Not everybody has.
Yeah, but even if it is your own mind, there's still that connection with your lost one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is in your mind, and that's, to me, that's still communication.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's 100%. Just my opinion.
100%. Yeah. So let me ask something. When investigating or when not investigating, because it does happen both times. It doesn't only, it's not only exclusive to when you're investigating. What are some of the more incredible paranormal experiences that you've had?
Well, just the other night I was up late. I don't know why I was up late, but it's like everybody had gone to bed. Mm-hmm. We have this freaking mirror that's like where I was sitting in our living room. I look across the dining room into our family room. There's this big circular mirror there. Mm-hmm. And we only had a few lights on, so I'm like accidentally scrying. Mm-hmm. And I could have swore I saw somebody's face pop up or like walk past the mirror. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. And I started getting like that weird kind of like gut dropping thing. Like, what did I just witness? Now the energy's all crazy. Then I hear this like small but loud explosion. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I went in to my kitchen and I'm looking around like I don't see anything. So I didn't think any more about it. I went to bed and then I had to get up at like 2 or 3 o'clock because I'm an old man. And you know, the dog, anytime you get up, the dogs, you know, automatically need to go out. So I went and let them out, and I was rocking around the kitchen just kind of, and I happened to look over and on our stack of dishes in our cabinet, because the cabinet was like just barely open. Mm-hmm. One of our dishes that was just sitting there had shattered. Like it blew up from the middle. Oh, wow. It was just, I'm like, whoa. So like normal, yeah, okay, maybe there was an air bubble in it, like after being dishwashed or something that could have expanded it. But when I see something like when I'm not really, but kind of scrying, because I just happen to be like in that like weird mindset. Yep. And staring at the mirror, and then all that kind of, you put that all together. That to me, that was probably something. Mm-hmm. That was something. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah. Again, like I said, I don't feel like I have to prove anything to anybody. I just, you know, we've done this long enough where we kind of know the difference. We feel the difference. We still try to prove it wrong, but you know,
of course, you look for every other excuse of what it could be in your mind.
Right.
This shit. There's nothing else that I can.
But when you put all the things that happen in that like 2-minute span, then it's unexplainable.
It's a little bit more surreal.
But yeah, the whole reason I started this was stuff like that, because we moved into a house when I was 10, and like we'd just be sitting there watching TV, and we'd always have like our stack of VHS tapes on top of the TV because we had the big console TV, and like the middle one would just like fly out of the stack. I'm like, what the hell? You know, and like you couldn't. We thought maybe it was the cat, but the cat was like sleep next to me. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Just
right.
stuff like that all the time. Like our bread, we'd go into the bread, and the bread would just be flying all over. Like had been thrown all over the place. Just little
Hmm.
stuff. So, but yeah, it's the little stuff that gets me going.
It's usually enough to make you
Yeah,
say, "Hmm."
right.
It's funny. It's funny though how you say that something like a tape flew off the rack or a bread, and then like the dish exploded. Do you think? Not to say it's the same spirit, but do you think that spirits can follow you from place to place?
I think so for
Yeah.
sure. That's I do believe that. I'm not a big believer in like crystals and stuff like that for protection. I do wear a bear paw. It's like it's basically a Viking bear paw with the runes around it. It's like a little pendant that I wear, and I feel powerful. I feel protected when I wear it. But I think you put good, and if you put that protective intention behind anything, you know, if it's something that's meaningful, you just throw it in your pocket. I
Yeah.
think that helps you be protected. Your intentions, you're going to get what you put into it. I mean, you put that energy into something to protect you, it's going to protect you. So,
100%.
anyways, but
100%.
I definitely have had that happen to me. I mean, one of my first times at Madison, I came home, and the first thing my wife would always, or at least used to say back in the day, did you cleanse yourself before you came home? Did you make sure you didn't have any attachments? Because she believes, but she like wants nothing to do with it.
Right.
I'm
Of
like,
course.
yeah, of course I did, which I didn't. I didn't do it. um, so it's just like for a couple of days after, she was like complaining. It's like, I hear somebody walking around upstairs and the kids are down here with me. What's going on? I'm like, I don't know. And then one night it kind of culminated. Like we were both downstairs and the girls were sleeping upstairs. And we heard somebody giggling and running around. I'm like, shit, the girls got to be up messing around.
Mm.
And I go up there and they were both sound asleep. Like I knew already by that point, like when they were faking, when they were actually sleeping. Like
Yeah.
my youngest was snoring. So I mean, I'm like, oh crap! Now I got to go talk to my wife, and like tell her I don't know who that was. 'Cause she's good. I mean, it's gonna be my fault. Right?
What
So,
did you bring
right,
home, Ray?
that's right. So I go down. We live in a 60s style split level. So there's only like 4 steps down to the living room from where the bedrooms are. And I kind of look down. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you asshole. And like as soon as she said that, I heard footsteps running right from behind me from the
Oh
bathroom to my
God.
daughter's room.
Yep.
And I turned around and I looked and my daughter was sleeping. I'm like, she's like, you're an
Jesus.
asshole.
Yeah.
But it wasn't malevolent. Like most people say, oh, it's a little girl trying to trick you into communicating with her. It's going to be
Right.
a
Because
demon. But I mean,
it's
no,
a demon. Yeah.
it was just an energy that I think I brought home because there's definitely child energy at Madison.
Yeah.
And I think, being a father, they probably are attracted to my energy.
For
You know what I
sure.
mean?
Right.
Because I'll sit down and I'll try to communicate with them. I'll play with their toys and I'm very father like when I do that kind of thing.
That's
So
cool. That's cool.
I think the energy is you get it. I don't think that you can take stuff home or you can have spirits follow you, but I don't think it's always malevolent. But it's definitely something that can happen.
So you feel like I tell people like, oh, so you're going to investigate a house? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Like, did somebody like murder somebody in that house? No. Did somebody kill themselves? No. Did somebody
Right.
die there? Probably, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. It's generally
Right.
about like it could be an old couple that just like built a house together and raised a family and put all the
Yeah.
love and energy and good stuff into that house.
Yeah. For
That's
sure.
that's where they're coming back to after they're dead. I mean,
Yeah.
can it be both sides of the coin?
Yeah.
And when you talk about
Yeah.
good intentions, putting good intentions in it, isn't it both sides of the coin with that
Yeah.
as well? Like the voodoo doll. Do you believe that that's a thing that you can put curses and hexes on other people and sports teams?
I think your power of your mind and your spirit, you can do a lot more than people think you can.
Hmm.
I mean, and I don't think it's per se the doll. I
Hmm.
think it's the energy and the mind, the spirituality you possess and you put into that doll. And
Yep.
I do believe in some forms of magic and energy work. I mean, you know,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I
Well,
think
that's what
most of
Reiki
what
is
people,
right.
I mean, it's been scientific, sort of pseudo scientifically proven that most what people would call poltergeist activity is actually us.
Yep.
Like, and it's because it's always surrounded like they say it's a young girl who's been through some trauma, like their parents are fighting or something, and stuff just starts moving. And it's the power of our mind doing that. It's
Could be.
like
Yep.
we don't understand how energetic, like when we're in that that area where we just can't control our emotions, that release is like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
Sort of, you know what I mean?
So poltergeist. That's one that kind of escapes me. I mean, it doesn't really escape me. I get the whole noisy
Yeah.
ghost, the whole things getting flipped upside down. Do you think that's is it's like a spiritual entity created by the human mind and then it reacts, or do you think it's like something triggered by there's something like emotion just triggers an entity or creates an entity or provides a vortex, if you will, for an entity
Yeah.
to come in?
I mean, I think the possibility of all those things
Hmm.
exist, but for me, if in a normal type of situation, like when we do interviews, when we did interviews for like residential cases, you find these things out, and um, I do think that a lot of the chaos that people consider a haunting is like telekinetic energy that we release in high traumatic, high stress moments.
Yep.
Um, it's an energy wave. It's a release of energy. I mean, physics proves it. Energy goes places. It just doesn't die.
Hmm.
I could feel something, and that's going to get transferred in some way.
For
You
sure.
know.
For sure.
Hey, Lori. But yeah, I think probably a higher percentage of that is us creating it.
Mhm.
And like you were saying, do we create the spirits with our mind? I definitely feel like that is also a good example of poltergeist activity.
Okay.
Now, I have deep conversations with a lot of my friends in the field um, about the power of the mind, and even like with communicating with aliens. So like how collective consciousness can produce enough energy to like actually communicate with alien beings.
Hmm.
But yeah, for sure, I believe in what we call thought forms. Like at Madison, we
Mhm.
all know that there's more than likely not a girl that passed away there in a room that everybody calls Sarah's room.
Mhm.
There's no historical proof. There's nothing written, but
Right.
yet there's activity there. And it's childlike activity.
Mhm.
And there have been mediums that have walked through there that have said this this entity doesn't feel normal.
Mhm.
It's presenting itself like a girl, but it's just a pocket of energy that we have all created by giving this story credence
Wow.
and the power of thought.
Yep.
And it has actually ended in producing a spirit or like
Mhm.
an energy form.
Yeah. Yeah, that's this and the study has been this is nothing new. This has been going on for
Yeah.
over a century. The Ryan Institute in North Carolina. Ryan was a professor at Duke.
Yeah.
People's heard of Duke. They researched this shit going back over 100 years.
Yeah.
Einstein, Tesla, some of the greatest minds. Yeah. Carl
Right.
Jung did a lot with synchronicity, which I don't know if you know anything about synchronicity, but there's
Mhm.
so many examples of it.
Oh yeah.
Again, at the Varna Memorial Armory, it's just how things come together, how things happen in the
Yeah.
universe. It's just how much is this coincidence at this point sometimes, and
Right.
how much is it like something that the human mind, either or spirituality, or a little bit of everything, kind of like made all this become.
Right.
It's always fascinating. It's always
Right.
fascinating for sure.
Then you watch something like Men in Black, where we're just really pawns in some greater existence
Yeah,
board
very.
game. You know what I mean?
I don't know how much I buy into the aliens building the pyramids. I tend to think we as mankind was a little bit more, I don't know,
Advanced.
advanced than
Yeah.
we let ourselves off to be.
Yeah.
Um, and also the Egyptians had enslaved the entire Israel people, so there was a
Right.
lot of free
Yeah.
labor to be had. So
Right.
I'm sure there was something a little bit more rational to explain
And
the.
they were expendable. The labor was expendable. They didn't, you know,
Yeah,
they
right.
pushed them till the end. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know any about anything. I'm not a professor in any of that.
No.
I just enjoy watching people research them and come up with ideas.
mankind has done tremendous things for deities or for their
Yeah.
own belief system. So I mean, there's
Mhm.
churches and religious centers all over the world that have been like giant cathedrals that are just.
Right.
How did they build that? Well, because
Yeah.
they thought they had to, and they did. And
Yeah. Like they're trying to figure out like who built the oh my gosh, no, I can't even think of it. I'll get back to it.
Okay,
Stonehenge. That's what I'm talking about.
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge.
Oh yeah, Stonehenge is cool.
Built out of material, like big chunks, big carved blocks of rock that
Hmm.
isn't really even native to that area.
Hmm.
How did they get there? How did they place them like that? You
Hmm.
know, it's just cool
Or like
stuff to think about.
Easter Island. Those heads are actually, from what I read an article recently that suggested those heads are giant statues that are buried into the ground. They started
Yeah, yeah, I've
going
seen
into
those
that.
pictures and those ideas. Yeah,
That's insane to think about, but I
right.
mean, it happened. People did it.
That's why we do this, right? Just to kind of dive down rabbit holes and talk about the mysteries. Where I don't don't think we in our lifetime we may ever find the actual reasons
No,
for these
oh
things, but
no,
it's fun
probably.
trying to get there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I've had a billion experiences with the ghost stuff, and I look forward
Yeah,
to a billion more. And I absolutely enjoy conversating about and talking with other people from
yeah,
around the country, around the world about their experiences and how unique they are at the same time and related to mine at the same time. So
yeah.
it will never, like I said before, it will never stop amazing me how awesome this shit is on a
Right.
regular basis. All right, Ray. Anywhere before we wrap up with you, sir?
Yeah,
Anywhere that anything that where people can check you out, check out what you're doing. Your podcast comes on. Where can people see that?
yeah. We my podcast is the Cryptic Paranormal Show.
Mhm.
We are affiliated with the RU Media Network, which has its own Facebook page and YouTube channel. So just look up RU Media Network on Facebook or YouTube, or we have our own page that our show goes to live. Also, the Cryptic Paranormal Show.
Mhm.
Um, and then I share everything on my socials with is just Ray Goosby. You can find me pretty much on Facebook. I have Instagram page for
Yep.
both myself and the show. Um, and I'm on Blue Sky, which is the new Twitter, I guess. I don't know.
Blue Sky. Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
people are hopping over there that are kind of done with the whole political
Oh yeah.
posts and stuff. Kind of more of a safe space.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. That's nice.
uh, and yeah, so like the Cryptic Paranormal Show, we're live. Generally, we're usually live every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we go out live on YouTube and Facebook at those pages.
Hmm.
A lot of weeks with just the three of us. It's me, myself, Denise Smith, who we call D Nice. That's
Hmm.
her radio name,
Nice.
and Michael Bradley, who we call Heisenberg.
Nice.
This is a story we can get into another time, but
Of course. Of course.
um, we just have a good time. A lot of times it's just us three of us talking. We do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of interacting with the chat room.
Mm-hmm.
We try to stay super positive. We go down on whatever rabbit hole we go down. But we've had some amazing guests on too. I mean, we've had Dustin Pari, Nick Groff, some really cool people.
Mm.
Um,
That's
we've
awesome.
had Andrea Perrin on several
Oh yeah.
times. Love her
Fellow
to
Rhode
death.
Islander. Yeah. She's
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the state.
Talking
Yeah.
about the Conjuring House. Yeah, but yeah. Um, so yeah, we've met a lot of amazing people. We have
Yeah.
a pretty good family of followers that kind of follow us around, and we every once in a while we'll try to do like a live investigation.
Nice.
And we'll go live with that. Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, my Dark Alley research team, we haven't really done a whole lot this year. It's just been kind of a busy year for family stuff and work, and
Yeah.
that's kind of more of the hobby area of mine. But
Mm-hmm.
the show is where I really kind of get into it and just personal research. But yeah, you can just find me on Facebook. I mean, that's where I do most of my promoting.
Yeah.
Ray
Nice.
Goosby. Just
Yeah.
yeah, check it out. Yeah, but
Gooz.
yeah, this week though the show is on tomorrow night because of Thursday I'm actually going to the Brown Steelers game. So go Steelers.
Oh, there you go. Any before I let you go, Ray, any predictions on your Steelers this week or for the remainder of the NFL season?
Predictions, I want to say they'll at least get to the playoffs. I want to see them. My heart's telling me Detroit versus the Steelers, but they got a lot. They still, I mean, the AFC is competitive. I mean, we know like Kansas City just lost their first game, so I mean they're going to be tough to beat in the AFC. Buffalo's a tough team. They're the ones who handed them the defeat.
Yep, no slouches. Yep.
But Detroit is killing it in the NFC. I'd love to see them in Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. In Pittsburgh, they started with that kid from Chicago, that washout kid from Chicago, and then they
Justin Fields. They
ended up with starting the other guy, Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, yeah. He's becoming a good fit, and it's nice to have that veteran that still has some leg on him. But speaking of leg, if it wasn't for Bosworth, we would have lost against Baltimore last weekend.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Yeah,
that was nice.
When all your scoring is done by your amazing field goal kicker.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. They won with field goals, right? It was all.
They didn't score one touchdown the whole game.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, he was hitting it from 57, close to 60 yards, and he was nailing every single thing he was kicking. So thank God for him.
Yeah, right.
But that put us up first in the North. So
there you go. Good for you. Good for you guys. The defense is kicking. Everything's rolling. Mike Tomlin's one of the. I said it last week. He's like the Black Bill Belichick. He's a genius.
Oh yeah. Honestly, a lot of his style, just the way how intense he is, reminds me of Cowher. And I mean, he's been coaching since Cowher, and how long has that been? I mean,
it seems like forever ago.
The one thing with Pittsburgh, man, is they're all about retention, and they treat their players well, and people love playing for that family. So
it's a good organization. Honestly, I don't have a lot of bad ill will to say about Pittsburgh. They'll probably beat up on my team if my team makes the playoffs this year. My Dolphins are starting to resurge.
Yeah, they're tough too, man. They're doing awesome.
Might happen. Yeah, we've had 3 wins in a row. Nobody. It's like the one man team. Without Tua, we were flopped. We couldn't do anything. Tua came back, and we're like the team we were last year. So fingers crossed. I got to see them play in Buffalo while we lost in Buffalo. Buffalo's a lovely city, lovely fans, lovely people, lovely wings. Oh my God, I love the food up there. It was equally delicious. So it's always a good time in the NFL to get around. And New England fans are a little tough, but they have it tough now. So it's interesting to watch them flop and fail and do terrible.
Yeah, it's funny seeing like the big rivalry for Pittsburgh being Baltimore. It used to be the Browns, but now
the Browns are crap.
I mean, every play almost at that game last Sunday was there was some kind of pushing and shoving and brawling and getting in each other's face. It was like old times again. Like it was fun to watch.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. All right, well, I want to thank you for coming on, Ray, and good luck with everything going on. And go Steelers unless you're playing the Dolphins.
Yeah,
right?
Go Steelers. All right.
All right, that was a riveting piece with Ray the Gooz. Check out the Gooz and all the stuff. I'm waiting for Bams to make his gallop in from the pasture. He's going to come in after a 3.5-month hiatus. He still isn't in the barn yet, but I'm gonna get the show rolling in case Bams doesn't make it on tonight, and I'll just be able to play out everything that's going on. Hopefully. So we're going to start with the NFL. Last week, as you heard, Pittsburgh was able to squeak through Baltimore. It's the NFL this year. It seems like you're either a good team or you're not a good team, and unfortunately, my team is like my team is somewhere in between. But lots to talk about in sports. So I'm going to kick it off really quick here with the NFL. Week 12. The first game of the week, as the Gooz just told us, his Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling right down the road to his Pittsburgh Steelers. He's he's from the Ohio region, so the Ohio team. Yeah, but that's so terrible. Who wants to even claim that they're a fan of Cleveland unless your name is Russ Stiver? Good for you, Russ, for still holding on. The Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Cleveland. Cleveland, well, they've been playing a little bit better in the last week or two. Njoku, he's doing some stuff. Who's that quarterback? Winston, he threw like almost 400 passing yards last week. It's like, wow, where's this guy been? And What was their running back? I don't know. They're doing some things. I don't think they're going to do anything. Pittsburgh, as the Gooz said, they have Russell Wilson, who's on fire. They have all sorts of weapons on offense. They have a defense that's as steel curtain as it's ever been. The other Watt, not JJ Watt, but his younger brother is another Watt is I don't know, he's crushing all the offenses. So I was 11 wins last week. So if you're playing parlays, I would definitely pick Pittsburgh against the Browns. If you're doing the money line, I'm gonna look up the really quick. I'm gonna give you a quick idea what the point spread is in this game. Pittsburgh's favored by 3.5. I'm taking Pittsburgh. Do what you got to do. First game on Sunday features the Minnesota Vikings, who have a lovely record. They're traveling to division rival, the Chicago Bears. The Vikings are they're favored by 3.5 points. They have their defense is really clicking. I'm really upset that coach is he used to be our coach in Miami, is now he got pooped on in Miami. He got excused from the NFL for a year or two. Now he's back and he's like the Return of the Jedi, but he's not the Jedi. In Minnesota, and I think they're going to go into Chicago. While Caleb Williams looked like he had a little bit in him, a little bit in the gas tank last week. They fired their offensive coordinator. They learned how to play some football again. I don't think they're going to be able to bring it against Geno Smith and the Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to light up the Bears. So my pick is the Bears with the points or with the money line. The next game of the week, as the Gooz also mentioned, the Detroit Lions are on fire. They absolutely lit up the Jaguars last week. Not only did the Jaguars not score a touchdown, they did not score above a 2-digit score. They only scored 6 points, and the Lions scored again. This is like that third game of the year where they scored over 50 points. Jared Goff is in my mind, the clear candidate for MVP. The ESPN and Adam Schefter went and switched after Casey lost the other night. Now the Detroit Lions, go figure that one out. The Detroit Lions are the number one pick for the Super Bowl. I'm pick the Lions all day against the Colts. They're giving 8 points up. I would still go money line and points. The Lions, the Colts, they have a decent run game with Jonathan Taylor. Their quarterback is like in and out. He's like start 1 week, he's benched the next because he sucked the week before. Yeah, Detroit all day. The next game featured at 1:00 here in not here in New England, but in sunny Miami. My Dolphins are hosting the local New England Patriots, who are absolutely they're doing a little bit better. They're not absolutely a dumpster fire, but they were a few weeks ago. Drake May he's having a decent year, even though he's losing a whole bunch of football games. Their running game, Stevenson, he's doing a few things. Polk has proven their draft pick. He can catch a few balls, but he's not catching all that much. They continue to lose, and they're taking the shit show on the road this week to Miami, to a team that's been, like the Goose said, they've been winning. They've been showing some hope. They've been showing some light. They're a new team. They're a new mission to we tank for you, and hopefully you don't tank for us. So Miami is favored 7 points. I would take Miami in the money line at very least. The points is tough, but I don't think. Yeah, go ahead, go Dolphins all day. Money line and the points. The next game, the Buccaneers are facing the New Jersey Giants. The Buccaneers. What's his name? Baker Mayfield. He's been like really like bringing the show on the road. He's been doing what he needs to do. He's had a ton of injuries he's had to work around. This week he gets back Mike Evans, wide receiver. The other guy is out for the season, but Mike Evans, he played with Tom Brady, so he knows how to play football. They definitely know how to play some football, and they're going to a team in New Jersey who doesn't really know how to play football. Their starting quarterback, Daniel Jones. Danny Jones? Yeah, he got benched for the Paisan. Tommy, I can't remember his name. He's an Italian kid. They all call him the Paisan. he's not going to bring the cannoli to this game. He's going to leave the cannoli at home, and the Giants are going to lose another one. While the Giants have a decent secondary and some good linebackers, I don't think they're going to stop the prowess of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Another team that's not going to stop any prowess or do anything at all. The Dallas Cowboys are absolute shit. They're here we go. Their starting quarterback Dak Prescott went down with a season-ending non-hit injury to his ACL, tore it on the sidelines. He could have tore it the week one. They've been playing like trash all season. Their defense hasn't showed up. Their offense hasn't showed up. They're traveling to Washington to play a team that just lost, who was looking for an easy win, and they're going to get it against the Cowboys because the Cowboys, like their owner Jerry Jones, suck. The Commanders are favored 10.5 whopping points over the Cowboys. I don't see the Cowboys covering very much these days. I don't see them covering this game. I take the Commanders on the money line and the point spread. Go, not Cowboys. The Kansas City Chiefs and Taylor Swift took one off the right eye, off the cheek, off the chin, if you will. Yeah, they took one off the chin. Patty Mahomes took one off the chin Monday night as they took Sunday night as they took a big loss to the Go Buffalo Bills, who handed them their first loss of the season, and more importantly, savored my Miami's Dolphins, our last record that we hold on to in the NFL, the undefeated season and the win of the Super Bowl. 72 Dolphins are staying alive, and the Kansas City Chiefs are now 9-1. The Patty Mahomes hasn't been showing up. Taylor Swift, she didn't do very much last week either. I think she was on tour the night before, and I don't know, it wasn't working out for Taylor. Their whole team was falling apart, and Buffalo finally Josh Allen showed up and finally smashed Kansas City. Thank you, Buffalo. Kansas City Chiefs are being favored by 11, which is rightfully so because the Panthers are just absolute. They're like the Cowboys. They're absolute trash. They're a dumpster fire down there in Carolina. They have a lovely stadium. They have a lovely city there in Charlotte, but their team isn't so lovely. I would go the Chiefs. Chiefs look back to bounce back after a kick in the Johnson loss to the Buffalo Bills, so they're going to come back and spank the Panthers and win this one. Chiefs on the money line and the points. The next game, the Tennessee Titans, who has a decent defense but has no offense to speak of, traveled to Texas to play the Texans, who are just another team in the long line of teams that have beaten the Cowboys this year. They actually lit the Cowboys up pretty well. CJ Stroud had a bounce back kind of game. They scored. They did the run game looked great. Their defense looked great, although they were playing the Cowboys. But this week they're playing the Titans, who aren't much better. So I go the Texans are favored by 8 points. I would take the Texans, not in the money line. I would just take them I would take them in the money line. I would not take them in the 8 points. I don't think they're going to cover. I think the Titans will put up a few points and maybe keep it close. They're not going to eat the poop like they did against like they did against Houston. So the next game, the Broncos, who I picked last week, took it to the house and won one. I thought they were gonna just win, but they won pretty big. They're gonna win pretty big this week. They're taking the Denver show. Bo Nix is he's playing some football. He was drafted a little bit later in the draft class this year. He started almost right away, and he had a bit of a slow start. He's been picking it up a little bit. Been making some passes. Been running with the ball. Been scoring some touchdowns. They're gonna go play the Raiders, who are absolutely terrible. The best thing about the Raiders is Max Crosby. They're I think he's a middle linebacker. He might be the edge rusher. He's an absolute beast. He's gonna give Bo Nix a little Bo Nix, but I don't think he's gonna give him enough because I see the Broncos covering the 5.5 point spread and taking the win over the Raiders, who are they're not rating very much this year. Let me just say that. One of the games, maybe the game of the week. The Green Bay Packers host the San Francisco 49ers, a game that would have been the game of the week. Would have been the NFC Championship game. So many so many years in the running in the 90s and 2000s, but this year they're kind of lackluster. The Green Bay Packers barely won last week. I think they won by a missed field goal right at the last second. They're favored by 2.5 points. Um, Jake Love, I love, not Jake Love. Oh, Love. That's their quarterback's name. He hasn't been much of anything to love this season. He's thrown a shit ton of interceptions, fumbles. They're like he's like a middle of the road quarterback. The 49ers, who were in the Super Bowl last year, has been a dominant force in the NFL, hasn't really been much of a dominant force there. While they have Christian McCaffrey back, and he's always been a great running back, they've been slowing down a little bit. They're not as the same fiery, explosive team they were. Ayuk is out. Nick Bosa, the defensive linebacker, who I couldn't think of his name last week, he's an absolute beast. He went down. He's out. So the defense is kind of lacking. Their offense is kind of lacking. Green Bay is kind of sucking. I went with the 49ers because I think it was eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But I could change my mind before Sunday. The Packers are favored by 2.5. I don't know. It's I think 49ers could cover the score. I think it'll be like a close game either way. Another game I feel will be a close game, and it's really close in the point spread. It could definitely go either way. The Arizona Cardinals take the show on the road to Seattle to play a weird Seahawks team. I say weird. They pulled off a last minute victory, a walk off victory against the San Francisco 49ers last week. Geno Smith was lighting things up, but yet one of their starting center mysteriously retired just the other day, right in the middle of the week, just weird, they just, I don't know, he was nowhere near retirement. I don't know, some things might be stirring up there in Seattle, but what is stirring is in Arizona. Kyler Murray is having a pretty stellar year. He's got Marvin Harrison Jr., who's like his father. He's a tremendous receiver. He really knows how to reach out there and catch the ball. They got great running back in was it John Connor, and they have another couple receivers. They've put together some wins. They're actually I think they're in the hunt for a playoff spot in the NFC West there. The NFC West is a division made up of mediocrity. Actually, the Cardinals are 6-4. The Seahawks, Rams, and 49ers are 5-5. So it's still kind of tight, but it's weird that the Cardinals of all teams are on top of them all. They got some oomph. While I picked Seattle, they're taking 1 point. It's going to be a close one. I don't know if this is a game I put the parlay on, because this is going to be one of the eek games, a game that I feel won't be an eek game. The Sunday night game, the Philadelphia Eagles, who kind of got their shit together, Nick, the EAGLES Eagles, and their head coach, I don't know, he's quiet. Nick Sirianni, he's kind of quieted down a little bit. He's not so loud and argumentative with his fan base. The Eagles are starting to win more games, and they are going West Coast. They're going across the country, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I don't think the Rams are like the Rams beat up on the Patriots, but they beat up on the Patriots. They lost to my Dolphins a few weeks ago. As long as you can contain Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they got nothing on offense, and you can just shut them down immediately. So I picked the Eagles favored with 3 points. They're going to go in the house, and they're going to shut things down. Baltimore, the Monday night game, Baltimore travels to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. The Chargers had a holy shit great game against the Cincinnati Bengals Monday night. That was a back and forth. Justin Herbert looks like he's really coming of age finally. He's got some good receivers. He's got some good offensive weapons. The defense is looking pretty solid. They didn't really stop Jamar Chase, but they beat Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, probably one of the best 1-2 combinations in all of the NFL. So they host the Ravens, who got beat by the Gooz's Steelers last week in a divisional matchup. The Ravens they haven't been the same this year. They had a bit of a slow start. Lamar Jackson can do anything and will do anything and could always blow everybody out of the water, but I don't know, he's been a little slow, not as explosive. That defense lost a few pieces last year, so they're not the same defense that they once were. Um, so I don't know. I'm gonna go. I think I picked Baltimore, but another game I'm kind of on the fence about. I don't know really which direction I'm gonna go. It could change before Sunday, but those are my picks for the week. Hopefully that was clear enough for you to understand. I really quick before I go Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Detroit, Miami, go Dolphins, Tampa Bay, Washington, Kansas City, Houston, Denver, oh God, San Francisco, Seattle, Philadelphia, and I'm gonna say the Chargers. That was the Baltimore Ravens. That's my parlay for the week. Take what you will from it. Good luck if you bet. Just have fun and watch football if you don't. Sometimes it's not about gambling; it's about having a good time. In other news in baseball, my beloved Red Sox say goodbye to Nick Pivetta. I'm not really upset. He's a starting pitcher. He's won us some games. He's lost us a whole lot more games. So while we're losing a starting pitcher, we're not losing a great starting pitcher. Let's be realistic. Red Sox are continue their talks with Juan Soto from the New York Yankees. He's center fielder, right fielder, one of those. He's out in the outfield, but this kid can hit. He's young. He's 28 years old. The Mets offered him $660 million to play a kids game in New York City. I would pay that. I would do that. $66 an hour. Let me go out there and play baseball for a career. That'd be beautiful in itself. But yeah, they're paying him. They want to pay him a boatload of money. Hopefully, the Red Sox can lure him away from the city of New York, and he can come to a play for a real team up here in Boston for my beloved Red Sox, and maybe spark some life back into my Red Sox. We're looking to pick up 2 or 3 maybe starting pitchers, maybe breathe some life back into the bullpen. Trevor Story, I hope they get rid of him. He's been injuries for the last 2 years. He's supposed to be a superstar at shortstop. He's been a superstar on the bench. He's been a superstar on the IR. We're yet to see. This is just the beginning of the baseball free agency. In basketball in the NBA, my Boston Celtics this evening, they're 11-3. This is probably the game of the month in the NBA. The Boston Celtics, I think they're traveling to Cleveland to take on the Cavaliers, who are, I believe they're 16-0. They're undefeated. I don't know if they're the only undefeated team in basketball, but they are currently undefeated. And like the Kansas City Chiefs, I hope that the Boston Celtics take down the Cleveland Cavaliers this evening. The Celtics have been playing really great, and it's really good to see them pick up where they left off last year and play with a grudge and play with a chip on their shoulder. And they still got a lot of pieces that are getting better, so they're not even full squad yet. So it'd be great to see the Celtics really come forward and kick the shit out of the whole rest of the NBA again this year and secure the title. In hockey news, the Boston Bruins fired Coach Montgomery after what was seen as him arguing with players, arguing with the team captains. I think the Bruins are 4-9 and won this year. They look terrible. They lost last night to they lost 5-1 against the Columbus team, who is the worst team in hockey. They're just looking like shit. So hopefully the firing of the Montgomery leads to a surge in a victory. These players stop playing like they're supposed to. Some blame it on the fact that Swayman was a holdout throughout the entirety of the offseason and then signed right in the beginning of the year, while Swayman kind of got the shit end of the stick handed to him last year. He hasn't done anything great this season, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with the beloved Boston Bruins, see if they can rehash a total poop show with the first month of the hockey season. But like basketball, hockey season is stupid long. So, like baseball, they could start in the toilet and they could end in first place or in the toilet again. So you never know what's going to happen. In college sports, Notre Dame continues to win. So go Fighting Irish. I'm not really going to continue much more on that. And we have time, yeah. And of course, to wrap up sporting news, it's 9:37. To wrap up sporting news, this past week, Netflix attempted to host the Tyson Jake Paul fight. It's a little fuzzy. 60 million viewers. They probably weren't prepared for it, but I did the first fight. The fight, the Brazilian kid and I think the other guy was Turkish. The Goyata. He just it was people were like, oh, he was so cocky, dude. He kicked the shit out of this guy. It was quick and it was just a lot of punches. And then there was the girl fight, which was I think it was I don't know if it was a title fight, but they like the girl's eye got like it was flappy. It was gross. It was a really great pow. The biggest disappointment of the night, of course, was Iron Mike decided not to show up. He sent Mike instead, and Mike just kind of like when Paul missed, Iron Mike would have like dodged and come in with an uppercut and like just knocked the shit out of Jake Paul. But Iron Mike didn't show up. He didn't do any of his typical Mike Tyson all these videos, all these training and workout videos. Like, wow, look at this guy. He's a machine. He's an animal. And that animal did not show up at all. It was a very boring fight. Jake Paul won. Like, I mean, I get it. Jake Paul's like 26. Dude, you're pushing 60, but you're Ryan Mike Tyson, dude. You bit off a guy's ear. You threatened to eat people's children. I don't know. I thought you were a little bit tougher than that. But good for you, Mike. At 58 years old, you got a $60 million paycheck for basically dancing around the ring for 20 minutes or so. So good for you, Mike Tyson. I hope you never do that again. That was absolutely heartbreaking to watch. And hopefully you've made enough money to compensate your pay for the rest of your life. That's really all I got to add. I haven't. Bams had a meeting earlier on, and he was going to show up for sports, but he might have hit some traffic. Bams is in the Fall River area, so there's a lot of traffic in that area. So, Bams, whenever you get back, you get back. Continue to stay tuned for Three Dudes Brews. We'll have more information on where to get our brew. Three Dudes in a Brew. It's a chocolate Snickers porter. It's sure to be absolutely delicious. Episode 6, which we're filming in a couple of short weeks at Tower Hill Brewing. It's a new brewery down in Narragansett, Rhode Island. And stay tuned also for the it's not coming up tonight, but it's coming on shortly. We have the Three Dudes Slater Challenge and the Three Dudes Camping Fall Special. So stay tuned for all this great material that's sure to be out on the Van Down by the River podcast. And our efforts to raise money for the poor and our efforts to make beer to put in my belly, all this good stuff. Next week on this show, which is called The Ghost and the Goat, we have a very special show. We have a very special show planned. I'm just going to look it up and see who's on the show next week. Tell you to tune in next week. If I can find my calendar. Oh, here it is. Next week we host Alfred Santoriga. I don't know who Alfred is off the top of my head. I'm assuming he has something to do with the paranormal. That's my best guess. I'll have more information throughout the course of the week, and by next week you'll be like, "Oh, Alfred, we know this guy." And so tune in next week for Alfred Santoriga. Tune into Van Down by the River podcast for all your podcasting needs, and for Ray, the Goosby for Bams. You'll get here next week, dude. And it's been me, Buddy Thayer. This has been the Ghost and the Goat, and everybody have a good week. Go Dolphins.